Hi, everyone. This is kind of an addendum to part 2 of my introduction to Project 1. In exercise 2, I talked about sampling color, so you already know how, but I'm going to talk about it again to review that. So I had set up my layer 1 and I pulled a copy of the photo to the left. So as you paint in Illustrator for Project 1, you want to be sampling color from the original photo. So we pulled a copy to the left because we dimmed the image on layer 1, and so it's not possible to sample from that. So we had to pull a copy, and what you'll be doing is going to the swatches palette and deciding what colors you want to use. So for instance, the greens of the grass, I'm going to sample a few times. So make sure that you're on the foreground box, the fill box in the bottom of your tools, and in the color palette, you want to make sure that you're in, that the fill box is on top of the stroke also. And in Illustrator, it's called fill and stroke. Not foreground, as I just said, that's Photoshop. So this is Illustrator. So I'm going to maybe sampling some greens here, and I like that green for the grass. So what you want to do is go into the swatches palette after you've picked a color, and you can do that when the color palette is up or the swatches, and just go to the drop-down menu in swatches and say new swatch. And then it'll bring up a new swatch palette. It'll show you the recipe in CMYK, which is good for you to look at and start remembering what colors look like in the CMYK recipe. And you can also say add to my library, but it'll create a new library each time. So I think it's easier just to stay in the swatches palette, maybe. Some people like the library, and say okay. And it'll start adding the swatches in your swatches palette. I'm also in, as before, in Classic Essentials working space, I should add. Okay, so let's say I wanted some colors, some green colors for the plants later. So I sample, and then I say, go to the drop-down menu in swatches and say new swatch, and it'll add it to your palette. So I'm, in a sense, creating some a set of greens for my swatches, new swatch, and say okay. And let's say I wanted some pinks for the leaves, and I'm going to be using those when I create my scatter brush. So I sample and new swatch, say okay, and just keep sampling areas that you can later use. And you may have to zoom in, so that would be okay, just zoom in. It doesn't affect your palettes there. So zoom in and sample. I already have that one. Maybe I want a darker red. So then go to your swatches palette, new swatch, say okay, and you have, so now you have some greens, some reds. You probably want to get the grays of the sidewalk and the grays of the street, possibly of the tree, and then you'll be able to start painting. Okay, so that is, notice that all the swatches that you made have a little corner on them. And you could even keep those colors global. I think there's an option for global so that you can change a color globally in your painting. But this identifies them as the swatches that you just made, the little tiny white corner that's put on the swatches that you created. Thank you.